G'day, everybody. Peps and J-Dog. We're here for a massive Round 11 review on the greatest sporting AFL podcast this side of the Westgate Bridge. Once again, hosted by myself, Chris Pepper, the 377-game superstar of the East Keilor Leisure Centre. East Keilor.
Leisure Centre. I've heard you're pretty handy in the old change rooms.
And for the people who don't know the guy that I'm working with, it's Jamie Wallace, the J-Dog, the co-host with the most, here for another cracking week of AFL football. And I tell you what, it's all happening on and off the field. And as we're going to air tonight, massive news to come out of one particular club. We'll get into the usual suspects shortly. But J-Dog, I have to hand this one over to you because you are the newsbreaker. You are the man around town. What's going on?
Well. It's been in the waters now for a couple of weeks, but the former Channel 9 boss, Jeff Brown, has officially declared his intention to challenge for the Collingwood presidency. Brown told the Herald Sun's Mick Warner that he would first approach Magpies' current president, Mark Korda, for a peaceful handover, as he believes that Collingwood is a great club and strong and united leadership is critical if we are to move beyond our current malaise. So, Peps, it has been quite a interesting time at the Collingwood Football Club. We had Eddie booted. I mean, let's not beat around the bush, Peps. He was booted from his position.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mark Korda stood or took that mantle from Eddie to lead Collingwood to whatever the next part looks like. And now we've got a challenge, which was the murmurings were about 3 weeks ago. There was murmurings that this was going to happen. And tonight we have, let's call it a spill for a word to bring in the politic world into the football world.
Oh, it's a takeover. It's simply that. It is simply that. And when Eddie went down, and you know what, I think that the way Eddie left didn't wholly represent what he had done for that club. I think he just went out swinging one too many times, and unfortunately he got bitten on the butt about it, and unfortunately left in not the greatest circumstances. But ever since what's happened, I've said it for years. You know, I think it's one of the, if we had Tats celebrating, you know, our quotes or our ethos, you've got to get your off-field right before your on-field gets right. And off-field Collingwood have been a debacle. Like, they're worse than local football. And anybody who's played local football, local sport, you know what committees and so forth can get up to. They are making local football clubs looking like first-class presidential runs right now. They are woeful. And when you're sitting on the ladder, 11th, you've got 2-9 and you've got a percentage of 85.8, which is only better than St Kilda, Adelaide, Hawthorn and North. For a club that played in a grand final only 3 years ago, that is a massive, massive fall from grace. And this is just another stab in the heart to Collingwood supporters. And, this has got a lot to play out because I don't think this one's going to be an easy challenge, to be honest.
No, and it started back about a month ago where Mark Korda was warned that this was coming. However, there has been groundswell of a fan angst, and it all reached a pinnacle when a 40-year member, David Haitley, organised a fan petition, gaining the necessary signatures to force an extraordinary general meeting. So what that means is Collingwood, or it allow the Collingwood fans to vote for board members, and the first time that they've had a chance to do that in an open election at an EGM since before Eddie Maguire took over the mantle at the Pies since 1998.
That is massive. What did they count the signatures, or did they just count the X's? That would be the question that I would be asking. What would they say? Don't let a sleeping dog die, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
This Jeff Brown thing's been going on for a while. Peter Korda, he hasn't even had a chance to even get things going, and this guy's jumped on board. He's a big player around the town, Mr. Brown, and I can't see him saying no. He wouldn't do this if he knew he wasn't a shoe-in to get it.
Yeah.
And I think the supporters want to see it. I don't think Mr. Korda's had much of an opportunity, like I said, to impact and make a change. What's going to happen is from the coaching perspective, and we're going to get into the way Collingwood played on the weekend, because categorically it was probably the worst 3 quarters of football I've seen from a team play
Mm-hmm.
all season.
Mm-hmm.
And for their coach to come out and say it's a game style that we're enjoying and we're getting something out of, my goodness gracious.
Yeah. Collingwood's current board members are made up of Mark Corder, who's the president, Jodie Sizer, who was tipped to maybe be a replacement for Eddie. She's the vice president. Paul Licuri is the vice president. Christine Holgate, Peter Murphy, Neil Wilson, and Dr. Bridie O'Neill, which I feel to me is sort of like the match into the powder keg room with that whole debacle around Dr. Bridie O'Donnell.
Yeah, we'll bring somebody onto the board that isn't actually a member for a couple of years, so they've got no voting rights, but that's okay.
Yeah,
we'll still let them slot.
Yeah. So this is going to blow up the Collingwood Football Club. I mean, they're obviously too big to completely leave the thing, but this is going to bring out some absolute ghosts of the past. It's going to absolutely bring this club to its knees if Mark Corder fights this hard. It's going to bring the club to the knees.
And they say any publicity is good publicity. Collingwood will not want this publicity at all.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing that, they're a club that celebrates, this is a perfect example. They were fighting over clash jumpers and port jumpers, etc., when they should have been worrying about what was going on behind their own four walls.
Yeah.
There's bigger fish to fry. And it's good that it's finally come to the surface and it's out there and it's been exposed.
Mm-hmm.
But we could be back here next week going, oh, my goodness, I know I blew up last Tuesday night, like just before we went to air. But this is going at a trajectory that I don't think anybody was seeing.
Yeah.
There's a lot to come out of this one, mate. And how's it going to feed down to Bucks? We know Bucks is out of contract shortly.
Yep.
Is he going to say, is he a Brown guy? Is he not a Brown guy?
Mm.
The assistants, like what's going to happen there? They're going to look back and consider this previous setup signed a bloke to 7 years over $1 million a year, and we've let some quality out of the door.
Uh-huh.
Is this the type of people that we want running the club? Is this the type of people that we want coaching the club? Are these the type of players that we want? Are they going to go, you know what, that contract, we're going to redo it? I don't know. This has got a lot. Eddie was running the show. He's not there anymore.
Yeah.
This is massive, J-Dog. Massive.
Yeah, it is.
And
very, very big.
If you think about this, has also come out at the same time that Mick Warner's book that's come out last week, which if you haven't read it, I know I touched on it recently last week on Tipped Out. It is an absolute belter.
Mm-hmm.
All the stuff that we said, they'll just sweep that under the carpet.
Yeah, it's a boys' club.
It's a boys' club.
Yep.
Read this book and you'll realize how much of a boys' club and how much they've got away with. I can't stress it enough. If you want to read one book and you're an AFL/sports lover and want to know the politics of what goes on behind AFL, get a copy of it. You will not be disappointed because every chapter is just a different scenario. They've had the Melbourne tanking one. They talk about the drug saga. They talk about Eddie Maguire and how he's left.
Mm-hmm.
They've talked about, you name it. All the bigger stories, they talk about it. Drug policies, West Coast Eagles and their drug taking and how that has all been swept under the carpet and everything there. It is an absolute cracker. Get onto it. Get onto it. Right.
Yep. Huge. All right. Next thing, Peps. Next big story we've got quite a few tonight.
We have got quite a few. But before we get into it,
yes.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in once again. Thank you, everybody, listening to us on the podcast out there in the universe within the state of Victoria. We know a lot of people in our great state are going through a hell of a lot at the moment with the COVID lockdown number 4.
Yeah.
We're all here for you. We're all going through it. So if we can just, bring a little bit of a smile to your face over the next few hours, that's what we're here for. If you're listening to it interstate, hopefully you're going all right. And if you're listening to this internationally, I know you've got your own challenges where you are. We're all here. We're all one community. We're all loving our footy lace out. Peps and J-Dog every single week. We can put a smile on your face a couple times. That's all we're asking for. So thanks very much. Hey, guess what I've got here? Right, J-Dog.
What do you got, mate? What do you got?
I've got my box. Look at this. A box of AFL. Look at those footy cards. If you want them, it's as simple as in the show notes. 36 packets in the show notes you can enter. It's very simple to do so. And once again, if you want to get a brand new footy, don't know where you're going to be able to kick it because you can't go anywhere because we're still locked down. But you can get onto the website, sharon.com.au, put in the checkout, lace out. You get how much, J-Dog?
Basically half price.
30% off your purchase except for personalised balls. So lots that you can do as well too. So let's get into it, J-Dog. We've had a bit of a chat about the Collingwood situation. What's next on your platter?
Oh, just one huge news story to the next. And this story is unfolding. And of course, we're talking about COVID.
COVID. You get COVID. You get COVID. Everybody gets COVID.
Absolutely. So, look, at the moment, there is a bit of a talk there could be a mass player exodus from at least 3 Victorian clubs. And if the AFL is forced to implement long-term hubs again in 2021. So the league has told clubs that it will exhaust every possible option before considering long-term hubs for a second consecutive season. So the clubs they're talking about are Essendon, Carlton and Richmond.
Why those 3 clubs?
Well, it's just those 3 players. I was just those 3 clubs. Not too sure if there's anything to it. Richmond is definitely one I would have... sorry, not Richmond. I would have thought maybe Collingwood might have been involved. Maybe those players are a bit more family having age. I don't know. Dads. Don't know.
Sooks.
But these teams here, those 3 teams, some players from there would seriously consider leaving their teams and returning to Victoria if their trips were extended beyond the 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, I can understand that. They put in a massive thing last year, and it's just been one slip up that came all the way across from Adelaide. Thank you, my fellow Adelaideans, for letting that one slip through the border. And it's thrown this state into chaos for our not 1, not 2, not 3, but our 4th lockdown. 4 lockdowns.
Yep. So the issue is in sharp focus at these 3 clubs because they do have a bye in round 13 and would prefer to return home to spend time with their families next week. Even if Melbourne is in a lockdown still. So we don't know what that looks like just yet.
That's understandable. You've got families.
Yep. So, look, it's also understood that some senior Collingwood players would refuse to be in a hub as well, though it's unlikely to be immediate for them as the Magpies are still in Victoria. So, look, it's just at the moment, it's all up in the air, but we have got some rumblings from last year that... players were on the verge of taking the year off because they didn't like the hub life. And if we are on the precipice of going into our second season in hub life, who knows what that looks like going forward.
I think that the thing that I've taken the most out of all that is precipice. Did you get that on the word of the day calendar today, mate?
No.
1st
Why?
of June calendar.
Hey, look, we are a little bit more learned down here on the Surf Coast. Maybe you guys in the backwaters of the crappy part of the Yarra River don't quite get that sort of language.
I think it's more along the lines of, mate, when you're locked away in Port Adelaide prison, you've got a lot of spare time on your hands and not access to not many good books. Dictionary is all that you get to read, mate.
It's like Shawshank Redemption. I just get there and read.
It's the Shawshank Redemption. Exactly right. All right. Okay. What's next, mate? What's next on the Around the Grounds news of the week from you, J-Dog?
Peps, I just want to get your thoughts on another potential hub life. What do you think that means for us in terms of not us? I mean, I'm not lace out. We're stuck in here. But what do you think that means for the AFL? Would you support it? Anything to keep the AFL going? What are your sort of thoughts?
Yeah. I think I have no issue with it. I think this is a bit different this time round. Mm-hmm. I think Melbourne, we should have got onto this a lot earlier. Let's be honest. They should have had the round before. If everyone available to go. They're just going to have to do what they're going to have to do. The challenge that they're going to have is if it has to go to hub life, where are they going to go? Because some of the states that gave us exemptions last year, Queensland, they're pretty much locking us out at the moment.
Queensland also got people on holiday still in Queensland.
I know. You can still fly to Queensland, but not from Victoria.
No.
So that's going to be a bit of a challenge. New South Wales, they're opening their arms to us, which is good. Perth.
They've got what? New South Wales got what? One ground?
Two grounds.
Really?
They've got 2 grounds.
Oh, gee, I suppose Giant Stadium.
Oh, hold on. And they've got probably Wagga Wagga where the great Wayne Carey grew up, so they could probably play a few games out there. But outside of that, it's going to struggle. Tasmania, they should play some games in Tasmania. That's an option.
Yeah.
Because it's so cold down there, COVID wouldn't survive. And that's not scientifically correct.
You sure, Peps? You sure that wasn't research? You sure?
We don't research, you know that. But look, it's. I do feel sorry for the players because 4 weeks ago we looked like everything was going along nicely, and it just shows to say one case, the Indian strain has just taken it out of control. So what can you do with that, mate? What can you do? There's not much, which makes it tough. So I support them. If it gets the season done, the only thing that I'm a bit peeved about, and look, I'm putting on my Melbourne hat here. Could you imagine if Melbourne make a grand final and I can't go? And they win by 5, and they win it, and we can't go.
I shouldn't laugh, Peps. That's not very nice of me.
No, that's not very nice. But I will track that guy down that brought it back into the state, and I will slap him.
Yeah.
If it goes the way that it could go, I will be shattered.
Peps, I like the fact you're talking grand finals. You're a Melbourne supporter. You know that I'm actually surprised you did that.
Did you actually hear what I said? I said, Jamie, can you imagine that just everything else after that doesn't matter?
It's even in your mind right now. You're talking grand finals.
You've got a dream, mate. You've got a dream. Look, like I said, if you told me at the start of the year that we'd be sitting 11-1.
Probably should have been 11.
Sorry, 10-1.
11-0.
10-1, and we lost that one game by a point. I would have gone, Jamie, you're right. You're being shanked way too many times. So we can talk about that stuff. I reckon, you know what, before we get into some other new stuff, I reckon it sets it up perfectly for a bit of checking out this week, the round 11 ladder. All right, so let's have a look at this. So Melbourne get that top spot again, one game clear, 138.5%. The Doggies went down, probably played their worst game of the year, but mind you, they did get restricted by the
no Wallace. Blue. Put Wallace in.
No Wallace watch, not again. Team that's had, I think, 7 in a row, Brisbane Lions. Are they flying at the moment? On equal points with Geelong and equal points with Port Adelaide. Sydney is sitting there on 28. They had a good win on the weekend. The West Coast Eagles, my goodness, sitting there on 7th on 24, the same as Richmond. That makes up your top 8. And the team that I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about, which I cannot believe I'm going to do this, but I love football, and I must admit, at the start of the year, I picked this team to be bottom 4. But what they've done over the last number of weeks has been sensational in Essendon. And I'm going to shout out to a guy named Andy Bridge, who punched me on the chat this week and said, when are you going to give our club a bit of recognition? I said, if they win this week, I'm going to actually go into some statistics from 2019, which was the last full season, into this season, how much of a change has occurred. GWS had a bad result on the weekend, but they're still in there with a chance, equal with Essendon. Fremantle are there as well too. St Kilda, how they've won 5 games, I've got no idea. Carlton, can you smell that, Jamie? Apparently it's still on the slow boil. It's still that whatever they're cooking is still on the slow boil. The Gold Coast Suns, great win on the weekend. Adelaide Crows on 16 points. So you got 3 teams on 16. They're probably out of it, but you never know what's going to happen. And Collingwood, well, we've spoken about them. Hawthorn, probably the worst list in the league, and North Melbourne, they're having a crack, and that's all. So there's your ladder. Jamie, I would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are locked in. Then you've got Sydney, West Coast, Richmond, Essendon, GWS, Fremantle, and I have to put St Kilda in there just because they're on points, but they've got way too much percentage to make up. At this point of the year, halfway through the season, put your crystal ball on who stays in and who drops out.
Everyone stays in the 8.
Okay, so you're saying changes. Essendon are going to miss?
Yep.
All right. Here's what I'm saying.
Okay, what are you saying? What are you saying,
I'll say West Coast are the danger. If they turn up like they did on the weekend and deliver what they served up against Essendon, they're going to drop out.
Okay.
Because they've got issues at the moment. And I think the way that they lost on the weekend and how they lost in that last third of the game was inexcusable. So I reckon they're the danger. I think Sydney are going to be safe, especially if there's a lot more hub games, meaning they won't have to travel anywhere. They'll stay and play more games in Sydney. Richmond, we know what they can expect. And I still think, once again, I'm looking at Essendon. Essendon are a full capacity players-wise, I reckon, at the moment, outside of probably Dylan Shield. GWS have got a lot of injuries. If they can get those players back and, once again, the games stay in New South Wales, I think they're the only 2 teams that have a bit of a chance of sneaking in. So I reckon you're right, it will stay, but if it is, it's got to be only Essendon or GWS that make it. And if Essendon make it, it's going to be massive because if we said at the start of the year that Essendon would make the 8, only I think Essendon supporters themselves would believe that.
Pepe Jama, I played a bit of a game on the weekend.
Yep.
and I played the ladder predictor game.
Oh, tell me about it.
I don't mind the old ladder predictor game. From just looking at the games that we know are coming up, they're saying that a minimum to make the 8 this year is going to be 11 wins, and we could have teams on 18 wins.
Well, there's already one team on 10.
Exactly right. I'm saying, but that is like they're saying that the top couple of teams are going to be 18s, 17s, 19s. That's pretty amazing.
That's pretty full on. That is big.
That is a lot of teams who are winning a lot of games. Minimum is like 13 to win.
Hashtag, mate, premierships are not won in June. Doesn't matter how many you win through the season. I remember Geelong lost one game for the season, came into that 2008 grand final and lost.
I know, but I was interested because just as we talk about the competition getting more even and beating anyone on a day, a ladder result like that also shows that there is a huge disparity between tops and bottoms.
Yeah, I think at the top of the ladder, top part of the ladder, up until about 10 or 11, that's quite even, probably even maybe 12.
Yep.
Outside of that, there's just too much of a gap.
Mm.
And once again, is this a flow-on effect from the drafts that were compromised with GWS and Gold Coast? Are we still feeling an effect with that? Who's to know? But that is massive, mate. All right, what's next on your plateau?
Pep's just a sneaky one. Surprisingly to all, maybe not to everyone, but to majority of us all, Peps, including myself, we're talking mid-season draft, Peps. We're there already.
All right.
We are halfway through.
I think listeners on the chat right now, they're talking about all this sort of stuff at the moment, but it is absolutely fascinating right now looking at the mid-season draft is already here. Like, how has the middle of the season got here so quickly?
Yep.
Normally I'm packing up my ski gear, getting ready to jump out into next year, going down to Bulla. I haven't even looked at the stuff at the moment. I'm looking forward to, our premiership is draft week and trade week.
So the top, there are basically, it's really important for some of the bottom teams to top up their list. So there's 10 clubs who could address some of their lists. So number one pick in this year's mid-season is North Melbourne. And the talk is they're probably going to get another backman in to help Ben McKay and Robbie Tarrant back there. So a backman could be what they could be looking for.
Yep.
In this year's mid-season.
Yep. I think Buzz has jumped on. Did St Kilda win on the weekend?
Yes, they played one of the greatest games of AFL ever seen.
Oh, that was.
We'll talk about that later.
We'll talk about that in a moment. But that was just that blew my socks off, that one. But
I'm
tipping St Kilda won because that's the only reason why he's joined us this week.
Two players there who could fit the bill is we've got Jacob Edwards and Max Heath. Jacob Edwards in particular is interesting because he's a 202 centimetre tall. The word that you love, Peps, he's a rangy, athletic footballer.
If you just said rangy footballer, that's fine. Basically, when you say athletic, he's got not 1 ounce of muscle on him, has he?
He's bouncy, he's skinny, and he's competitive.
So he's basically you without the competitiveness.
Probably has more hair as well.
And probably hair. Yeah, everybody, what do you reckon about Jamie's chrome dome look?
What do we think?
Buzz,
can I have your approval?
Oh, you've got the same haircut as Buzz now. You know that, don't you? But Buzz reckons it's a mid-season guessing draft. No. Yeah. I don't think it's as much of a guessing. I think if there's some runs on the board, you can see what they're playing. They're playing some good local footy, good Southeast Australian Football League footy. That's been struck down by COVID. Local footy's been trapped. Oh, my goodness, just when seasons were getting back underway, they've been all stopped again.
Peppy, yep. Got another one. Hawthorn, pick number 2.
Yeah.
So we saw how they were smashed on the weekend.
Yeah.
What they need is a midfielder that has pace, and they're talking about a guy who is, they've got Jonathan Segler, who's needing a bit of a break. They've got Ned Reeves down there. They may take someone else, another tall person potentially as well, and they're looking at Ned Moyle, who's a 205 centimetre. Peps, one of your favourites again, my friend. He is an ex-basketballer.
Far out. He must be related to Pendlebury, and I reckon that, what's his name? Petrarca would know him as well.
Yeah.
I bet you he can work his way through a phone box.
Oh, dear. So there's also Jai Newcombe as well that could take pick number 2 with Hawthorn. Pick number 3 is Collingwood.
Yep.
The Pies have key young defenders and running back, but require midfielders and key forwards. Funny they say that because they had some young midfielders that could do that job.
They had, I think, 4 of them, didn't they?
They did.
And they sort of went, whooshka, for Grundy.
Yep, so Heath is also one of those ones that could be ideal for the Maggies. And they could also be seriously looking at, and the talk around here is looking at giving Tyson Stengel another crack at AFL.
Oh, why not? Why wouldn't? You know what he can do? If he's been burning it up in the local leagues, why not?
Yeah.
Why not? All right. Hey, J-Dog.
Yeah, my friend.
What am I in the mood for?
What are you in the mood for?
I'm in the mood to spin the magnets.
Okay.
Let's spin them. All right. So it's spin time. So what should we go with first? I reckon we go with our 3 votes. Let's start this off. Let's start this off nicely. So let's start it off with a bit of
3 votes.
3 votes. All righty. Can I go mine first?
You can go yours first.
Right. First and foremost, I have to be a bit biased here, but what Melbourne did to the Doggies on Friday night was sensational. Loved it. Did I expect it? Hell no. I even picked the Doggies. Melbourne have come out and kicked their highest score in a first quarter for the entire year and restricting the Doggies to their lowest score for the entire year. Now, a certain individual that I do this podcast with, halfway, I think, through the second quarter was saying it's all done, it's all over. And I'm like, mate, this is Melbourne. I didn't expect it. But what they did and how they played was exceptional. And I tell you now, if you haven't thrown a couple of dollars on good old Clayton Oliver for the Brownlow, he's probably picked up his 3rd best on ground in the last 3 weeks. He is magnificent. And when I on the Sunday Footy Show, they were talking about Judd and Kerr versus Oliver and Petrarca. You've still got a while to go, but goodness gracious, if they can continue the form they're in at the moment all the way through, I could be a very, very happy man. And I know Joel Michael will be a very, very happy man as well.
Peps, what I saw on Friday night was Melbourne, the most similar thing I could put them into, like trying to match up an item with how Melbourne played, fire blanket. They literally suffocated the Bulldogs midfield. Could not move the ball.
The fire blanket. I like that. The fire blanket.
The Melbourne fire blankets.
And they play Brisbane this week as well too. So it's going to be interesting to sort of see where that game's being played, what time it's being played. Yeah, it's just, they play 1v2 and it's going to be 1v3. You got one team who are playing consistent football across the entire season against a team that started off really slow and it's just clicked into gears the last 7 weeks. So I'm excited for that. Look, I have to give my 2 votes to a guy that took one of the best marks I've seen in a long time, Jack Riewoldt. Now, this he's pushing closer to the end of his career, but that mark that he took, if you haven't seen it, jump on afl.com.au. No doubt it'll be on there, where he's running into the back, face first into the pack, jumps up, takes it, but almost twists in midair and takes an absolutely sensational mark. They've been comparing it to his cousin Nick's mark in Sydney many, many years ago when Jonathan Brown's won. I still think they're the two because the way that they and the speed that they hit the packs on those 2 marks is nuts. I would never do that. And I'm telling you, I'm not a pea-heart, but in that case, I would have just gone stand aside. But that was sensational. One of the best marks I've seen in a very, very, very long time. And look, I have to give my 3 votes to a team I have ridiculed. I have bagged out. I have hated for many, many years. And look, let's get me honest, I still don't like them. But Essendon have been playing some awesome footy over the last number of weeks. And what they did over there in Perth, and I'm going to get into it more, just how things have changed in the space of 2 years, because I didn't count last year, for this club. One draft, but a number of other factors have just gone through the roof this year. They're playing some really good footy, and look, they're not going to win the flag. So don't think it's, if I hear you one more time, it's the Baby Bombers of 93 once again. Daryl Kerrigan, you're dreaming, all right? Like, you're not, okay? But you've got plenty to get excited about. Very, very excited about. So they're my 3 votes
Love it.
for you. What about you, J-Dog? What's
Peps,
your
3 votes?
I'm going to change it up this week, Peps, for me.
Yep.
I like your 3 votes, but I'm just going to make it, I'm going to have a key word, and then I'm going to assign 3 teams. You can choose who the votes go to. I don't even care. But the one word that comes to mind this week for me is gumption. There were 3 clubs out there who showed some real gumption in just getting the job done. No one gave them a chance, or no one really thought much of their list this year. No one really thought, oh, God, they could actually go on and do something special here. So my 3, 2, 1, in no particular order, was Sydney versus Carlton. No one gave Sydney much of a hope this year. The list wasn't good. Midfielders lacked. They had no forward structure other than Dane Rampy kicking goals. Who was going to be their goal scorer? Sydney have come out and absolutely have shown everyone that they have got kids up there. And they showed Peps. What's that G word that they showed on the weekend?
Gnome?
Gumption, Peps. They showed gumption.
Guts.
All right, my other club.
Maybe Gatorade?
My other club, Peps, who showed a bit of gumption, Essendon.
Oh.
No one thought that Essendon was going to go well this year. The first 3 games of the season, absolutely terrible. They have shown that they've got Parrish coming in who's just getting an absolute ball magnet, averaging over 30 possessions this season. They've got players still to come in. We've got Dylan Shield who's still to come into this team. They have got ball winners across the lines. And I'm not going early. I'm not calling them their baby bombers. I'm not saying they're a premiership contender. But Peps, what did Essendon show on the weekend?
Gumption.
They showed gumption, Peps. Exactly right. That's what they did. All right, the third club is the Suns.
Oh.
I don't rate the Suns. I don't love it at all. I don't.
I do.
Them.
Big
I don't
fan
rate
of the
them.
Suns.
I think
like
they
them.
are. I think they're a waste. I think that the AFL has made a critical error up there, and I think that the Suns have also critically stuffed up, royally stuffed up, actually, I should say. But Peps, their win over Hawthorn, 113-76 against a team that's won 3 premierships, a team who arrogantly traded in their futures to keep that premiership window open. Peps, what did the Suns show on the weekend?
They showed gumption.
They showed gumption, Peps, because they stuck it right up to the Hawks, a team that they'd barely beaten in the last 14 years of their existence in AFL. I might probably made that up. But they really showed some gumption on the weekend, and I am loving that. And that's me done for my 3-2-1s, Peps.
Awesome. And look, for anybody who's been listening to those last couple of moments, we're actually going to put the definition of gumption in the show notes, just in case you don't know exactly what it means. Buzz, apparently I showed no gumption when I played at EK. No, that's probably right. I just showed skill, and I was known as the light bulb. I just turned it on every single week, Buzz, and you know that's fact. Rightio. Okay, so, all right, it's time to get someone dragged right now. So, Barassi, are there?
Haley off, Ellingworth on. Bloody weakest piss.
All right, let me whip through these ones nice and quickly. First and foremost, Collingwood of Geelong. What Collingwood served up in that first half of football on the weekend was a travesty. It was disgusting.
Three quarters.
3 quarters, was it?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't watch this third quarter. It was disgusting. But they were a tripe. And if you have a look at any of the highlights, they were playing slow ball movement 10 minutes into the game.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work for you. Like, why would you want to go to Collingwood at the moment? They've got no board. The coach, I don't know what the coach is going on, but mind you, the Buckley's other half, he's done all right there. What baseball team do you follow? So, look, Collingwood did what they had to do. That 10-point scoreline, my goodness, was that a bit of a false economy with that there? So, Collingwood, that was disgusting. 2 votes go into this team. Spoke about them a moment ago. West Coast Eagles. At the 13.5-minute mark of the second quarter, you were sitting on 25 points in front, and you lost it to Essendon. All right? Your players are not fit. You've got an overrated ruckman. Your midfielders don't work hard enough both ways. Your backfield, your back.
I'm not going near that.
I'm going. He's overrated, Nick Nat. He doesn't do enough around the ground. If his name was John Johnson, no one would care less. The forwards, they don't work both ways. They just sit in their own positions, and you got beaten by a team that wanted it more, which is Essendon. And last but not least, who's getting my 3 votes? Oh, that was my 3 votes.
We have
I
three.
give myself 3 votes for not having my 3 votes in the right order. I should have. I have a full weekend to get this organised, and I've stuffed it up royally. So I'm giving myself 3 votes for not having anyone written down for 3 votes.
Oh boy.
Yep.
Excellent, Peps. My 3 votes, similar to you, no particular order. West Coast, you shouldn't be losing games over there, and you shouldn't be losing games to Essendon over there. You know their history. You know that they're a bit flaky. And you gave up a hell of a lead. What the hell are you doing? West Coast, terrible. If you want to make the 8, you've got to win all your home games.
Wet toast. Wet toast. Wet toast.
Don't really know if probably this is my number 1, like in terms of like only 1 vote. But for me, it's got to be the Giants, Peps. They absolutely got shown up against, like, if they thought that they were thinking, I am right there on the edge of cracking the top 8, right there, they got smacked and they got a reality check from Brisbane Lions, who absolutely spanked them in the tune of almost 80 points. Or 70 points.
Yeah, I think with GWS, I'm not making excuses for them. They have got a few injuries at the moment, so it does make it tough. And look, they've come in against probably the most red hot team in the league right now, which is the Lions.
Yep. And if the Lions kick straight again, that would have been bad.
Oh, don't say that.
And finally, for me, you had a win, but St Kilda, if you wanted to show something, you should have put in more than 20 points against North Melbourne. If you really wanted to convince people that you're not just that, 20 points should have been the absolute, like that should have been closer to 40 if in reality. And I mean, I'm surprised we're talking about mid-season draft. We just got through it then and didn't talk about St Kilda throwing a 7-year deal at 1.1 at Mitch Wallace because that's what St Kilda do.
Oh, look at you, St Kilda.
So
all those big guns you signed up, they're doing well, aren't they? Buzz.
Well done on your win, but let's not beat around the bush. It was one of the worst games of football that we have seen since the Collingwood versus Richmond reinstation of the league last year.
Well,
because it was a shocker, Peps. That was a tough Saturday to sit through football.
It was. That's why I watched the Melbourne replay about 4 times.
Yeah, because we had.
Hey, listen.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I was going to say really quickly. And I'm sorry for interrupting there. I shouldn't do that. But the Rising Star. We've got another Rising Star for this week.
Ooh, tell me.
For the 3rd time this season, it's a Melbourne player, Trent Rivers, playing off halfback. This guy is 19. He is a gun. Like the 3 people they picked up in the draft, not last year, year before, Trent Rivers, Cozzy Pickett, Luke Jackson. They've nailed each and every single one of those picks, and they're all playing regular footy. I didn't realise, I thought he might have been about 20-odd, but he's 19. He's been playing virtually every game since he started. He is an absolute jet, and this gets thrown around quite a bit, but he was the captain of WA during their the Vic Metro series or the Teal Cup series or whatever it's known as now. He could be a future captain for the D's. He is that good. So he's playing some sensational work back there in the back line. He's just doing his job. He's kicking goals. He's stopping. He's an absolute jet. I love him, and he gets the Rising Star nomination, a well-deserved one, I must admit.
Absolutely. Peps, would you say that he is a superstar of the game?
No, I don't think he's a superstar of the game. I think he's a very, very good player.
Would you say he's a legend of the game?
I would say he's a very good player.
Okay, very good. I just want to make sure that you're not going to give it some hyperbole there and talk about it.
No, I'm like I said, I've got a season, I've got a lifelong pass to Mark Neal's reality bus. I call it how it is. Alrighty.
Very
now,
good.
Jamie,
yes.
I am going to talk about a team right now for the next number of minutes that are playing some sensational football, and it's the Essendon Bombers.
I'm going to let you go, Peps. I'm going to let you go because I'm going to work on my question for the listeners this week.
Okay, beautiful. All right, so the Essendon Bombers, nobody thought that they would actually do anything this year, and if anybody says that they were, you're bloody lying to yourself, because after what you've been showing under Worsfold for a while, you bring in the truck, Ben Rutten comes in. What I'd heard behind the scenes that he wasn't too crash hot, has it all his own way, doesn't take in any information from anybody else. That's what I'd heard. Now, this is going back a while, and that's what I was expecting. And the way that they started the year, you probably respect that. What they've been doing over the last number of weeks has been sensational. They've won four out of their last 6 that I can see in front of me, and one of those was a 2-point loss to the GWS. And another one of those was the Carlton. So they've got their good moments, and you've got your Carlton moments as well too. But what I decided to do, Jamie, is I thought, look, let me have a look at the last full season. So their last full season was 2019. Last year was a compromise season. And I want to look what they're doing now compared to what they did for a full season in 2019. And just working out the average differentials between what they're doing over the course of the year. Okay. So just to put some things in perspective, in 2019, they were averaging close to 14 disposals a game less than their opposition. Okay.
Yep.
At the moment, they're averaging almost close to 4 in front. So they're working a little bit harder.
Mm-hmm.
But what outstood this for me is that they're taking less marks. Okay. They're not kicking as many goals. Okay. They're kicking a couple more points per se.
Mm-hmm.
But their inside 50 count has skyrocketed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Their tackle count, they were averaging 3.9 tackles a game less than their opponents. Now they're averaging 12 tackles more than their opponents across the board.
Peps, quick question. So with their inside 50s, has their efficiency gone up, or you don't have that stat on hand?
I don't have that set, but I can I can put it this one. Their efficient disposals was 12.4 less across the board in 2019. Has jumped up to outrank their opponents 13.4. So they've gone, 25 possessions over from their effective disposal. So they're actually hitting the targets more across the game.
Love it.
Their contested possessions, they're actually a little bit less, but when you have a look at their uncontested possessions, they like to run a lot with the ball as well too. So Essendon, they don't like the hard ball. But what they like to do is get a lot of it on the outside. So their uncontested possessions, they were down close to 13 uncontested possessions a game in 2019.
Yep.
They're close to 14 in front of their opposition. So they've completely swung it around where they weren't getting the ball on their terms. Now they're getting it on the outside as much. They're actually making space for each other, and that's why that uncontested possession count has gone through the roof as well too.
Love it.
Other side of things that I have to look at, they're fifth for disposals at the moment. They're fifth for handballs in the league. They're third for points per game, which if you think at the start of the year, that was one of the areas they thought they wouldn't be able to score. They're second for tackles, so they're actually spilling the ball out, shooting it out to their outsiders, and there's a reason why. There's 4 reasons I've got written down why that's actually occurred. But they've also got the best percentage of any team outside of the final 8 as well.
Yep.
So they're getting it on the scoreboard. They're getting their hands on the ball, but when they're getting it on, it's not in congestion. It's not under pressure. They're actually making the play, and eventually that will skyrocket. They do need someone down forward. I don't think Jake Stringer's going to be the key, even though he wants 4 years. Tell him he's dreaming. Yep. If you can get a good forward down there, I would maybe target. I would say don't go for Ben King because he needs to stay at the Suns. Max King, I wouldn't go for him. If you can pry one of the forwards, I reckon one of the chances that you might have, and I never thought I'd say this, could be a Sam Wiedemann. If he gets dropped from the Ds, I can't see it happening at the moment. But there might be someone that you can.
Mitch Wallace.
Mitch Wallace. Well, he was the Doggies' leading goal kicker last year as well too. But there's in the top 50 average possession getters in 2019, they only had 2 players.
Mm-hmm.
At the moment, they've got 4. Now, the one that's gone through the roof, and if he's not, you're talking about champions before. This guy is far from a champion, but he's played a lot of footy, and it's finally they took him, 5-6 years to realise what position he needs to play. That's Darcy Parish.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've picked on him a fair bit. I reckon the greatest thing he ever did was cut his hair and get a man's haircut, but he has played some sensational football this year. His stats have gone through the roof in what he's deserved. He's averaging 30 possessions a game.
Yep.
He's averaging close to, 109 fantasy points if you're in that sort of thing. The other one is Zach Merritt, who still hasn't decided where he's going to stay. I still think that he might leave. But
Port
every
Adelaide.
time that they win, pardon?
Port Adelaide.
There's a bit of a, is he an Adelaide guy? Is he from? No. Okay. So he might go to Port Adelaide if he wants his career to go backwards. But Zach Merritt still hasn't signed, and he wasn't too sure. But if Essendon keep doing what they've been doing over the last number of weeks, there'd be more reasons for him to stay than actually leave. Ash McGrath, the dodgy number 1 pick, not saying that he was dodgy, but the year that the Essendon club did a bit of a, dodgies, and they got a number 1 pick for doing that. He's playing some great football. But I tell you what, the 4th person on this list, when I saw this, I went, you've got to be kidding me. There's a guy by the name of Dyson Heppel, much maligned by many, many Essendon supporters. And don't tell me that's not true, because I hear it virtually every day about this guy. He's moved back to halfback, which has opened up a spot for Parrish in the midfield. It's almost rejuvenated his career for another couple seasons. So I'm really happy to see him getting, and also when he did that speech, I think against Sydney a number of weeks ago when they lost, and he spoke to the group, and you could just see that he's got that leadership right on him at the moment. He is an absolute gun. You've got Anthony McDonald, Tip and Woody. I mean, who? Anthony McDonald, Tip and Woody playing footy. He is averaging 2.5 goals a game. He's sitting, I think, 3rd or 4th on the Coleman at the moment.
Yeah.
They're just doing fantastic stuff. They've still got Dylan Shield to come in when he decides to turn back up. Kyle Langford's playing great. Nick Hind, what a bargain. You got rid of Sard. You're bringing Nick Hind, and you're saving yourself about $300,000 a year. Mm-hmm. There is so much going on with this club that you've got to be excited for. And the 3 blokes that they brought in last year, Cox, Jones, and Perkins, it just goes to show, and I'm probably aiming this at a club like Hawthorn, go back to the draft, grab a great bunch of kids and bring them up through the ranks together. It's amazing how things can quickly turn. Now, if we go by history, they'll probably find it a little bit harder towards the end of the season as these kids get a little bit tired, okay? And that means that more pressure and more of the workload has to go onto the senior teams. It's happened before and it'll probably happen again. But all I can say is what they are doing right now, and also Mason Redmond, I even forgot to mention him, what they're doing at the moment is nothing short of extraordinary. And I'm actually really proud to say that I'm really enjoying the way Essendon are playing at the moment, and all the best for them for the rest of this season. Will they make the 8? I think that would be a bonus over everything. I think they have to have a few things go their way. And I think a few of those losses they had at the start of the year are going to make it a bit difficult for them. But they are going awesome at the moment, Essendon. And for every supporter, your club is going in the right direction. And I think bringing Carosello over from Richmond has made a massive difference. And getting a fresh voice in there in terms of Ben the Truck Rutten has made a massive impact to them as well too. So I'll tell you what, listeners, tell me what you think. Leave a note on the show notes in the chat. Leave a review. What you think of my little talk about Essendon? But I reckon they've got so much upside at the moment. It's amazing how quick things can turn around.
And we did see there, Buzz, just to quickly know on there, that interesting comment from Kane Corns about maybe grabbing both the Mackay twins there, having potentially I've lost the names. Having Harry up front and then having Ben McKay down the back. That would be interesting. If Essendon was to commit to something like that, although I don't see Essendon doing that. As you said, Peps, they've got good youth. They're going to bring in someone. They're going to probably bring in another couple of, maybe trade for something a bit different.
Yeah, and they've got a bit of room in their cap. But if they want to bring on a stringer and also McGrath and sign them up, they're going to have a bit of that cap. And I was incorrect. Reed was brought in last draft. Jones was the one before too. So thanks for Andy for finding that one out and just tidying that up. But yeah, they've got a lot going their way. So all the best to them.
Like it, Peps. Like it. Thank you for sharing that with everyone.
Beautiful. All righty. Hey, mate, it's time to splash the cash a bit because I've got a couple of updates when it comes to contracts. Nothing big so far. It is the middle of the season. Clubs are starting to lock away a couple of players. Nothing too exciting as we've had over the previous weeks, but Alex Neil-Bullen, one of the forward midgets up in for the D's, has signed a 2-year extension last week, so that's great. He's my dad's not favourite player. You can't say that he is a guy that can run, but he has upped his game from last year, which is great. And Jay Collar-Jasny looks like he's going to be signing for another 3 years at the Cats. So just a little bit of splash the cash contract news. We're still waiting for Merritt. We're still waiting for Stringer. Like as soon as we get the news, we'll share it with you here, listeners.
Excellent. All right, we time for listener question, Peps.
Oh, it's got to be the listener question. Tell us about it, J-Dog.
All right. Last week, the listener question was, where is the best burger with the lot? Because I was talking about old school, proper fish and chip burger with the lot, like the old greasy ones that when you basically the bag is dripping from fat when you pick it up. and what goes into it. So we're going to create our ultimate burger. So we have had some fantastic responses this week. So first off, we'll kick it off with Donna Jovanovic, and she has said to us that everything, including pineapple and beetroot, has to go into it.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you. If you just take the tomato off, but everything, yes.
Well, beetroot is beetroot and pineapple are two very, very divisive ingredients in the burger with a lot. I'm not a huge fan of beetroot because I think it tastes like dirt, but I am a huge fan of pineapple in a burger with a lot, but it has to be grilled. It has to be a grilled pineapple.
Oh, so you obviously can't go straight on. You want a bit of straight on the grill for maybe a minute both sides. Just get a bit of that caramelization on the outside. The bit of the charcoaly flavor as well coming through. Love it.
Lee Moss has put mushroom is a must on a burger with a lot. Don't know if that works for me. I don't know. That's the texture of it. It's a rubbery texture in a burger with a lot. You want to just sink your teeth into it.
Mossy. We're going to have a talk after this.
Unless you're talking about a vegetarian burger with a lot. And then
it's still no excuse.
Hey, look, Pep, we're all inclusive here. Nico from the Port Adelaide podcast. Start with the bacon. I'll start with the bottom of the burger. Bun, nicely crisp, having the buns cooked on a hot plate for a few minutes. Then you want to coat both buns with the sauces you want. So really lather them up if that's your thing. 2 to 3 layers of bacon. Everything is better with bacon. Then you've got to have the burger perfectly cooked, juicy and flavoursome. Good slice of tasty cheese. Needs to be partially melted over the burger just before it finishes cooking. Chuck in an egg. That's got to be done. Slightly runny with a bit of yolk. Lightly caramelised onion next. And then top that bad boy off with the bun. And then right then and there is your burger with the lot.
Jeez, thanks, Gordon Ramsay.
It's pretty fancy for me.
It's a pretty fancy burger.
I can't wait when the borders open up and go to Adelaide.
Oh, I'm tipping once again because he's from Port Adelaide that he may have seen a number of his cohorts order that as their final meal in Port Adelaide prison. That's the only way you can study something like that big in Adelaide.
YouTube prison meals. It is a fascinating world in the prison world.
Okay.
Corey Vandertucker said, can't go past halloumi. This is Fuds in South Australia. Best burgers around, and has included a picture. I like that because Pep's is simple and he likes to have just pictures to look at. So very good there. I love that one. Halloumi in a burger. Once again, it's a bit squeaky on the teeth. I'm not a huge fan of it. Rule number 1 from Josh Weymouth. So Flaming Josh has said, rule number 1 here, boys. Absolutely, and I cannot stress this enough, positively no beetroot on that burger. And then from
You're
there...
sacked, Josh. You're sacked. Sack him.
And then Thomas has come on there. Thomas Rock has come on there and said, double beetroot and pineapple, the big Queenslander. And then other people have said you've got to have a beetroot on there. Aaron War has come out and said Andrew Burgers in Albert Park. That is a very good burger shop, not far from where you and I used to work, Peps, together.
Oh yeah, definitely. Very nice.
Always busy every day of the week, every lunchtime, always flat out through there. Beef patty, bacon, egg, tomato, cheese, lettuce, beetroot, pineapple, onion, mayo, sauce on a nice toasted bun.
No toasted bun. You got to have the toasted bun.
On a
nicely toasted bun. So it's okay. So it seems to be a bit of the consensus is pretty much across the board that you can have whatever you damn well like on it. It's your hamburger with the lot. That's why it's the lot.
Well, Peps, you got mentioned here as well. Thomas has come back. Thomas Rock has come back and said Danny's Burgers in North Fitzroy is one of the best ones to have there. Yep. Joel Michael has said there are a few metrosexual type burger places being banished around here. Danny's Burgers are the best. Old school, no frills, no sriracha, dill or halloumi, and all that is rubbish. I know that on the chat, Peps, you had some on last week. You had a bit of a love for the place that you mentioned just around the corner from your house.
Because Rose Hedge. Love a bit of Rose Hedge fish and chippery. I remember when my daughter was first born, almost 13 years ago, I walked in and I said, my daughter's born, yada, yada. And they said, congratulations, Chris, and just gave it to me for free. Just those little things. They make a great burger. And also, if I want to go old school,
Deli E, wasn't it, or something?
What's that?
Was it Delahaye, yeah.
Yeah, down in Delahaye, just there, Rose Hedge. Mwah. And the other one, which I always cannot go, and I know there's a few people who know this one, Diner Parade in East Keilor. It is packed every single week. Beautiful burgers as well too.
Very, very good. Very, very good.
What about you, J-Dog?
Andrew's Burgers are good. I haven't really got a good burger shop down here. My fish and chip shop He's really good at everything else except for burgers. It tastes like they use the old Coles 20-pack patties. And
shut up shop, mate.
It just ruins it for me. So the only one I've had good is a really fancy fish and chip shop down here, and they are about $16-17 a burger, which I thought was on the rich
stuffed.
It's on the rich side.
That's a joke. That's a joke. It should
So
be
I'm
no
yet to
more than
find one.
$8 for a hamburger with the lot. No more.
Geelong Knights, Torquay type people. Let me know where to get a good burger. A good.
How about the poor fella?
All
Hey,
right.
buddy. All
yes,
right.
I have got this week's question of the week.
This week's
Chris.
question. All right, what is it?
This week's question is: what is your favourite chocolate bar?
Oh, J-Dog.
Simple as that. Simple as that.
I
What
wanna
is your
give you mine
favourite chocolate
now.
bar?
Do you know
can't-
mine just got recently reintroduced. That is how good this thing is. It's just like, oh.
All right. Well, let me put that up into our
Cracking
Facebook
question.
our Facebook page, and people can have their answers in there. Do not share it now.
I won't.
Peps, before we wrap up the show, anything you want to just cover off our listeners before we close the show for the night?
Yeah, I've actually got one other thing that we have to quickly do before we wrap up, which is 1 week at a time. The games that we're looking forward to for this week.
Mm-hmm.
Jamie J-Dog, round 12. It's going to be a shortened round because there are a number of teams, the Suns, North, Port Adelaide, Hawks, Geelong and Giants are having a bye. You'd almost say some of these teams have had multiple buys throughout the entire season. Look, I'm going with my biasness here. Melbourne versus Brisbane could be a cracker. That's going to be held at Giant Stadium on Friday night as well. And the other one I'm looking forward to is Essendon versus Richmond, the Dreamtime game, Optus Stadium, because it's going to be Essendon the real deal. If you're going to you have to beat the big boys. And you're going to have to beat Richmond. And Richmond have got a few back over the last couple of weeks. They're still not going to be having Tommy Lynch down there. But you saw Rewalt come in and you saw Callum Jones play a cracking game for his second game for the season. That's another one that I'm really looking forward to. Outside of that, there's not much else. Could Carlton beat West Coast? I was talking about West Coast. They need to win. They've lost one at home. They need to win one away to keep their chances of making the 8. Could you imagine if West Coast lose to Carlton? It could explode.
Excellent.
All right, buddy, what about yourself?
I'm looking forward to Port Adelaide playing the Adelaide Crows.
Practice match?
Oh, no. Black and white stripes? No. Okay, wrong team. I got confused there between Collingwood and Port Adelaide's black and white stripes. Sorry about that, Peps.
Oh, that's all right. That's okay.
Easy to do. I mean, we all fall for that. I've been sucked in. I was going to buy the wrong jumper next week because I didn't know what black and white stripes meant for which team.
That's all right.
I'm looking forward to St Kilda and Sydney, Peps. I actually am looking forward to this because if Saints want to be something and show us that things are not as bad as they seem, win this game.
Well, we'll find out next week. If will they be good or will they be shit Kilda? They could get back to St Kilda, but they're going to be playing against a team that is in some pretty good form. And if Buddy comes up again, oh my goodness gracious, I just love the Bud. All righty. So a couple of things to wrap up the show before we finish up. If you haven't had a chance and you want to win a full box, yes, listeners, look at this. And listeners, viewers, listeners, I have a full box. AFL team coach cards coming your way. All you have to do is enter the contest in the show notes and on the Facebook page. Once again, it'll be going for a couple more weeks, so get your entries in. If you want to get yourself a new footy, we mentioned it earlier on, sharon.com.au, lace out, pick yourself up a new footy, 30% off, which is how much?
Half price, Peps.
Half price, according to the J-Dog once
Practically
again.
half price, yeah.
You know what? I've asked this a couple of times over the last few weeks, and we've been getting a response. Leave us a review. If you love what we do, leave us a review on iTunes because the more people that know about us, and there was a hashtag that came out last week, hashtag listen to Lace Out. Let's get that trending worldwide. Let's get that going because everybody should listen to not the hoity-toity podcast, none of this 360 or 720 or 1080. We're going to listen to Lace Out because that's how you want your footy every single week. And Tipped Out is going to be on Thursday night as well too. And everybody tunes in for our tips. You're guaranteed to hear
them get wrong.
That's basically right. Yep, get wrong. I was going to let something else out, but I'm going to hold that off potentially for next week.
Love it. Love it.
Right. So there you go, listeners. There's our round 11 recap and review of all the news, everything. That's myself with Chris Pepper. Once again, I can't do this show without the single greatest co-host anyone could ask for. And that's Jamie Wallace. And as we do every single week, we ask the great question just to finish it off. J-Dog, Jamie Wallace, the J-Ball, the toe ball. How do you want your footy?
Peps, I want it to lace out.
Good luck to your teams this week and go D's!
See you, listeners.